This is Force 13 Live, and we're currently tracking Hurricane Irma, which still has winds of 185 miles per hour and a pressure, I think at last check, was around 918 millibars at this point. Hurricane warnings are in effect for a huge area of the Caribbean in the Leeward Islands, extending from Guadeloupe all the way to the southeastern Bahamas. The latest from the National Hurricane Center is that the storm has winds of 185 miles an hour and a pressure of 918 millibars. There will be a new update on that in less than half an hour, we anticipate. And it's currently at 18.1 north, 63.3 west, and obviously it's been traversing through the islands. This morning in the early hours, it made a direct landfall on Barbuda. The eye was over St. Bart's, and the storm made a direct landfall on St. Martin as well this morning as a Category 5. So this is an extremely serious situation in those areas, and we'll have the satellite imagery. In fact, I think we can already show you the latest visible imagery somewhere. There it is, and you can see what's been going on in the last 40 minutes or so. The islands just to the right hand side of the storm are St. Martin and Anguilla, which was also very close to the center of the storm. And next up is the Virgin Islands, the US Virgin Islands. There were two webcams positioned there earlier, but they went out about an hour ago. So that's our current situation, and the next stop is going to be the Virgin Islands. The northern part of Puerto Rico will get some serious conditions, and then on to the Dominican Republic and the Turks and Caicos Islands. I'm not sure how long we're going to be here, maybe not long, because we're doing all sorts of other things over here and keeping everyone updated, but we're joined by Craig and Cesar, and what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts of Irma is that, well, it's an incredible storm, actually. I'm pretty surprised that Irma still remains 185 miles per hour hurricane, and of course now it is now the first Category 5 hurricane to make landfall in the Leeward Islands. So of course it's a concerning situation because people have never experienced something like that before, at least in the satellite era. And of course, well, actually, what can I say? Irma is just a monster, and this is like a warning for the next thing that was gonna happen in the next days. I mean, making landfall in the Bahamas, possibly in Cuba, possibly in Florida as well. Who knows? It's pretty soon yet to say what will gonna happen in the next days, but the possibility is there, and we may see a potential disaster as well.
This is the Atlantic's strongest storm since Hurricane Wilma, and the most intense storm since probably 2007, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Dean, was it?
Exactly.
I keep getting them confused between Dean and Felix. It was Dean.
Yes, me too, but officially, yes, is, well, Dean practically the lowest pressure. Of course, the wind speeds since Felix, but it's kind of strange for me that the pressure of Irma is high, relating to the wind speed. But anyways, instead of that, Irma still a pretty powerful system. It hasn't weakened in the last 18 hours. We may possibly see a slight weakening as approaches to Puerto Rico and Turks and Caicos Islands, but still remain a Category 5 major hurricane. So people just not well, should not like go out or say, "Oh, I'm safe." This is weakening. So no, this is a
And
hurricane.
its
I mean,
movement is still just about west-northwest there.
yeah, the movement will keep to the west-northwest, and it's expected when Irma approaches to the jet stream, and once is practically over the Bahamas, it will turn to the north, and this is the most concerning part of it, because it depends how fast Irma moves to the west-northwest until it reaches that stream that will pull the system to the north. And
all about the timing there.
Exactly. Practically, just everything is all about time. So people have to pay a lot of attention on this cyclone, and practically as well evacuate the places and get prepared for the worst.
It's not the only storm that's active now as well. Behind it you've got Tropical Storm Jose, which has winds of 60 miles an hour already. And that could become a hurricane and approach the Lesser Antilles as well. And is likely to reach high-end Category 2 status. That's what the National Hurricane Center is predicting. And we've also got Tropical Storm Katia in the Bay of Campeche right now, which is also taking an odd track off the coast of Mexico, likely to curl around to the southeast and southwest and then into Mexico. And then in the West Pacific we've got Tropical Storm Guchol, which formed recently. I remember the last iteration of that storm in 2012.
Long time ago.
One of the first. It was around the time that Force 13 started doing its first ever storm updates in the Westpac, so I do remember that. But this is by far the main feature right now. Obviously it's made no less than 3 Category 5 landfalls this morning, and it could be on its way to a 4th. It could make landfall on one of those islands in the Virgin Islands. Let me get a zoom in picture for you in a moment so that we can see what the latest is. I think it's here. This is right now the latest infrared imagery of the storm. The eye might be closing in ever so slightly, by the way, but you can see the islands of the Virgin Islands there on the left hand side of the screen and how close the centre of the storm is right now. And the northernmost island there is I think that's Anegada, a part of the British Virgin Islands. The British Virgin Islands are the ones on the eastern side. I think it's the eastern 5 or so, and the rest of the US Virgin Islands. And if we go to the west a little bit further, you can see the island of Vieques, part of Puerto Rico, and the one right at the very bottom there is St. Croix. And I think we've also got, who's showing the screen share right now? I think Devon's with us. We've got a screen share a bit, able to show us some
Devon
radar.
is showing us the radar right now, and you can see the eye completely passing over San Martin, and now it's practically approaching to those Virgin Islands, Vieques and Culebra as well, pretty close to that system. Pretty concerning situation. And
then you can see how it's just passed over. St. Martin should be marked out on the map there as well, but it isn't. It's just south of the island that it passes very close to at the beginning of that loop, which is Anguilla. but still looking very strong. I don't know if Devon's able to talk to us, but how strong do you think it is right now, anyone? The
I
national.
think it's a little bit weaker, like 180, but
The National Hurricane Center will do an update very shortly, telling us what they think the storm's intensity is, and there's no evidence at right now to support the 185-mile-an-hour winds that it had.
yeah, possibly it has started weakening. Oh yes, continue, Devon.
I will say that recon is quickly approaching the center of the storm right now, so the NHC update might be waiting for that.
And we're also looking at a satellite visible image there as the storm continues to approach the Virgin Islands. Those who are familiar with the geography, you can see now that it's pretty much exactly halfway between St. Martin and Anguilla and the Virgin Islands. And it won't take so long for it to get there either, because how fast is it moving? And it's only taken an hour or two for it to get there recently. I'm trying to figure out.
That is one thing about Irma, is that it's a very swiftly moving system. It's maintained a nice pace to it, even though that's probably going to slow down once it gets close to Cuba.
So we've been looking at the model tracks, Devon, and I'm sure you'll have noticed as well that they are trending east at the moment, and we know they can change and all that, but the National Hurricane Center right now is the only one predicting a Florida landfall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and the official forecast track has always been to the west of the model cluster. But I'd just like to know, I don't know if anyone can pull this up. I certainly can't right now, but the COAMPS model, actually I can pull it up. It's right here. And the COAMPS model is still to the east of the main model cluster, which is predicting a, let's just say, rare landfall location.
Which one's that there?
Well, the main model cluster is going right through Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, of course. But which one was the COAMPS? Is that the one at the Outer Banks, is it?
Both of the two blue ones on the right. The CTCI is the experimental COAMPS, and the COT2, I think that's the operational COAMPS.
Well, that's interesting, and I detailed earlier this season, before the season began, that the Outer Banks could have a possible hit. I didn't think it would come from Irma, and it probably still won't be from Irma, but you never know. But what do you make of this? And people will be thinking of Matthew yet again, won't they? If that was to verify the model consensus. Do you still think it's more likely that...
Be thinking of...
Do you think it's still more likely that the official track will verify?
I'm hoping not. Boy, I'm really hoping that this storm stays well away from the eastern coast of Florida, because God knows they don't need another storm. I would also like for the storm to stay away from the Carolinas, because they've also had 2 bad storms in 2 years as well. However, it doesn't look like that this is going to be the case. It looks like it's either going to be a Florida impact or a Carolinas impact. Going out to sea, there are definitely some GFS ensembles, some CMC ensembles, some European ensembles that are saying, yeah, the storm's going to go out to sea. And the number of ensembles that have been saying that are increasing, but at the same time, there's still the minority.
Cesar, what do you think of the model spread?
Well, really, I'm still doubting. Really, how will be the track in the next few days? Because, well, of course, after 3 or more days, the uncertainty is pretty high. But if the models are saying, well, and most of them are saying that it will stay out of the Florida coast, and then I will say that is pretty great news. But then the big concern is now to states of Georgia and the Carolinas, and well, they, as Devon said before, they have experienced two great storms in the past, but still they will have a lot of damage and stays pretty strong. And a potential landfall in Florida is expected as well, so I don't discard it. And it depends, as I said before, how fast Irma moves and catches that stream that will pull it to the north. So it's just about time and wait what will gonna happen. But of course, people in Florida should take the precautions anyways, because hurricane conditions could even could even maybe fail in those places.
Now, Devon, are you convinced that this storm isn't as strong as it was yesterday?
Well, the last time that I've seen a recon pass pull 185 miles an hour was, I think, 13 or 14 hours ago. And I think they kept the 185. They're almost kind of like in fear of downgrading it. Right now, they've gone through the southwestern eye wall and they found 165 mile an hour winds, probably, that I would say that would be. However, the flight winds are lower than the ground level winds, so that's likely an error in the wind estimate there. So we really don't know what the winds are in the southwest quadrant. We're just waiting for the plane to get through the eye and then into the northeastern quadrant, and that should be one of the stronger areas of the storm. If I remember correctly, it was the northeastern quadrant that they actually found the 185 mile an hour winds to begin with. So if they're going to find the 185, I think they're going to find it on this pass, and if not this pass, the next pass. If they don't find it on either of the next two passes, I think that the storm is not worth 185. Obviously on satellite it's not worth 185, but it's never been worth 185 on satellite. So
Yeah.
Basically we just throw the Dvorak analysis out the window. It means nothing with this storm.
If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst you're on the air, I don't know how long we'll be here, it's all very impromptu. Send us a message, start your message with Force 13 all in text, and we'll get to answering. And the storm continues to draw very close to the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, now within 40 miles of the centre of Irma. So that's pretty close.
You can see the radar on my screen share. You can see the storm really approaching the Virgin Islands here. It looks like that St. Thomas, I think that is, won't be too far away from getting the eye wall shortly.
Now, is this still a stage 9 on the CDPS scale?
Well, I'm going to assume that it's that there have been no reasons to downgrade the size, and obviously they haven't downgraded the operational intensity, so I don't see a reason why it would have changed. But I'll run the numbers again. I haven't ran them yet.
And what would a stage 9 mean, considering that some of these places have already experienced this?
You know, I was actually looking back, and Luis's landfall on Barbuda actually also happened to be a stage 9 landfall, because
Wow.
Luis was probably about twice as big as Hurricane Irma. Luis was just an absolutely massive system in comparison to this one. Plus, also, Luis was moving slower. And this one's got a pretty nice forward pace to it. I think 12 knots, 13 knots.
So perhaps we can be just a little bit hopeful that damage won't be.
It still ranks higher than Luis. This is still higher than any of these storms that any islands have experienced. But now you're going to take a look at islands that were hit very, very hard by Hurricane Lenny of 1999.
Oh, yes.
This will be similar, if not greater than,
Yes.
the impacts left by Hurricane Lenny.
Wow. And we've also got the formation of Jose and Katia. What are your thoughts on those, if anything? Maybe none at all.
No, I don't really have many thoughts on the formation of them. It looks like Jose's going to be a fish, and Katia's just going to be one of those.
Yeah, well, I think we've got some breaking news, actually. The National Hurricane Center have issued their advisory. They've kept the intensity, Devon, and a hurricane warning has been issued for the north coast of Haiti, and a tropical storm warning has been issued for the southern part of Haiti. So the whole of Haiti are under warnings now.
I think the interesting part is that they've got the minimum central pressure still at 918, although the last recon pass, I think they picked up 923. I don't know if there was like errors with that measurement or something, but they're keeping it at 918. It's just, like I said, they're usually wary of downgrading the storm while it's this strong operationally. I think we'll see how they deal with it in postseason analysis. For all we know, they'll treat it like Moranti, but
oh no, don't say that. But yeah, it's something that's somewhat irrelevant at this point, just how strong it is right now. It's the actual effects of what it will do. But sometimes we look at things from a scientific perspective, chiefly, and say that maybe it's not quite as strong as they say it is. But Cat 5 is Cat 5, isn't it? And that's the really
that's the bottom line right there. You know, it doesn't matter whether if it's 175, 180, or 185 miles an hour. You know, the islands that are going to be in the path of the storm, they're going to be witnessing extreme destruction and devastation. Period.
So we'll keep you up to date on any more developments, but just that news there that watches have been upgraded to warnings in Haiti. For northern Haiti it's a hurricane warning, southern Haiti it's a tropical storm warning. Just to detail the actual locations, it's the same breakpoints as we had before. And by the way, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts, Nevis and Montserrat have had all of their warnings discontinued, and Guadeloupe. For obvious reasons, the storm is leaving the area right now. Cesar, are you still with us? Maybe not. Are you particularly concerned about Haiti, Devon?
I don't know. It depends on just how far south this storm gets. If this storm goes over Hispaniola, I'll be extremely concerned for Haiti. Even if it stays to the north, northern parts of Haiti are still likely to get at least 50 knot winds from the storm. So
Yeah.
they don't really have much going for them. Hurricane conditions looks less likely, I would say. I'm not going to say that it's completely out of the question, but they do look less likely.
And just to say now, I don't think the NHC are predicting the Florida landfall anymore, looking at the numbers. What are they saying? 29 and 80.5. Where's that? That's right on the coast, I think.
Yes, but you have to realize that that Florida is still well within the National Hurricane Center cone. So that doesn't necessarily mean that a Florida landfall is not going to happen.
But we started with the end of
the models trending east.
We started with the edge of the final center point of the storm on the National Hurricane Center's forecast being over Key West, and now we've got it off Cape Canaveral now. It looks like, or a bit further north, is what they're saying. The new graphic isn't out yet, but interpreting from their numbers that they've put out on their forecast advisory suggests that by day 5 they think it'll be in a similar position to where Matthew was when it was halfway up the coast, just beyond Cape Canaveral.
And yeah, it seems like, I mean, boy, we really don't want another Hurricane Matthew, because that really caused problems in Jacksonville. That really caused problems in Jacksonville.
And further north.
I don't think anybody wants that. And also plenty of problems in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
So the Carolinas have been hit really bad. They got that extremely heavy rainfall from Hurricane Joaquin, and then they had the landfall from Matthew, and now what's going on with Katia?
Let's not go.
I mean, not Katia, Irma, my bad. Oh, good lord, I'm stuck in 2011.
Yeah. Crazy. As soon as the map updates, we'll get the new map to you, but from what I can tell you is that the National Hurricane Center thinks that on day 5 it will be just north of Cape Canaveral as a 125 mile an hour category 3. And it will, and according to the National Hurricane Center, it thinks category 4, 145 miles an hour at 25.2 and 80 west. So that is, good lord. So the National Hurricane Center's forecast, Devon, looks like it's taking it right through Miami-Dade as a category 4. It will be reflected on the graphic soon. I'm just describing it, but you will see it. Obviously you don't look at the center line of the graphic, but it's very interesting to see. And obviously anywhere in the cone can still be affected, anywhere in Florida basically, and in the Bahamas. All of the Bahamas can be affected by this storm.
I would like to say that they've now got recon flying into Katia. That's probably what I was thinking of.
Really?
Yeah, they've got recon plane flying into Katia right now. But I just ran the CDPS numbers for Irma, and it looks like that the tropical storm wind field has enlarged, but the hurricane force wind field has shrunk a little bit. And the storm has also picked up forward speed as well. So it's a net loss, but not much. It's still definitely a stage 9. The raw number is 46.0, and that is still extremely, unfathomably dangerous.
Wow. Examples of stage 9 storms.
Well, as far as making landfalls, there's really not many of them. Like I said, Hurricane Luis is about the best I could find. Yeah, basically anything stage 8 and above is an extremely rare landfall event. You don't see those landfalls every year, much less every decade.
Well, we've just seen 3. We've just seen 3 from Irma at that intensity over some of those islands.
Yeah, exactly. So, there you go.
Are you staying with us, Devon?
I'm going to be leaving probably 15 minutes into the next hour.
Okay. In the meantime, we'll keep you updated on Irma. I don't know how long we're going to be here, but we'll see what we can do. Stay tuned. Send your questions in. We'll answer the questions at the start of the next hour after we get sorted with all of the latest new warnings and getting the new cone from the National Hurricane Center. We'll be back soon. Stay tuned.
Coverage continues in a moment.
You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.co.uk, at your service at any time. You can also find us on YouTube, the channel, search Force 13, all in text, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find us on Facebook at Force 13, and it's at Force 13 on Twitter, that's the handle to contact us there. You can also add Fool13 on Skype, that's FOOL13, and add extension 9094 on Discord for tropical weather chat. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. A live look from Force 13 HQ this hour. It's currently 4 PM here in the UK. My name's Nathan Foy. The weather here is not too inclement in contrast with what we're looking at elsewhere. Obviously, it's not so good over in the Caribbean right now on the Lesser and Greater Antilles as Hurricane Irma continues on its, on its adventure through the islands, and it's not looking very good for many of them. We don't even know the extent of damage that we will have undoubtedly witnessed over in Barbuda and on the islands of St. Martin and St. Bart's, which all got hit by a Category 5 storm, and the eye was over all of those islands, and I think Anguilla as well. And the same will happen to the British Virgin Islands very soon. As you saw at the top of the hour, the storm is only 38 miles away from one of the towns on the British Virgin Islands. The track map from the National Hurricane Centre is just updated. There it is, showing you the latest warnings that are currently in effect. Well, I'm joined by our team in this hour, which is consisting of Cesar and Devon. Anything occurring whilst we were briefly away?
Yeah, Recon Pass just went through the northeastern part of the eye.
Okay.
And, well, once again, the verdict is 145, if not 140 miles, not miles per hour, knots in the northeastern part of the eye.
So, Devon, have you seen the new forecast cone yet, properly?
Yes, I do. I've
And
got it pretty much up right in front of me right now.
the whole of Florida right now will be thinking, oh gee, it's like the 1st of October 2016 again when the first forecast cones first
Here we
moved
go.
through Florida. Gee.
And to think that the model confidence itself, the confidence itself within models, it's really spread out. If you take a look at the GFS, for example, it's spread out like crazy. So it's still possible. The error is, at least in the GFS model, also in the Euro model itself, the error is even larger than what the cone is right now.
Wow.
So
Oh god.
the forecast certainty through 3 days right now seems good. It's
Seems good.
probably going to stay within that cone. After that, we don't know.
Now, someone asked earlier about how does it look for Eleuthera Island in the Bahamas. Now, that's the one furthest northeast, isn't it?
Is that the one that gets hit by all of the Cat 5?
Yeah, the one that's furthest northeast, isn't it, I believe?
Yeah, I think it's the one that got hit by Andrew, got hit by Floyd, got hit by Michelle. It's gotten hit by a lot of stuff. I think it's got hit by Irene too.
And it's just on the edge of the 5-day cone, which you just said there's a higher error for. So
yeah, like I just said, right now it looks like Eleuthera is right on the eastern edge of the National Hurricane Center cone. So by that logic, you would think that it would be a less likely chance. However, like I said, after 3 days, it's anyone's guess as to where this storm's going.
And how about if those models continue to shift east too?
Yeah, then that would put Eleuthera, pretty much starting to get it right over the center of the cone. And that would be really bad. Obviously, we don't want that to happen. So, yeah, I suggest that if you're living anywhere on the Bahamas right now, if you're in the Turks and Caicos Islands in the southern Bahamas, you should already pretty much have your preparations completed. And if they're not completed, rush them to completion. As far as the central and northern Bahamas, I would suggest just continue to monitor the system where it's going. It's a very, very, very complicated steering pattern that Irma is about to go into in the next 3 days. You've got a high pressure, a low pressure, a high pressure, and a low pressure right above it. So any of those could just steer it in any conceivable way. It's not going to be like a Matthew thing where it just stalls and sits. Hopefully not. That doesn't look like it's going to be likely, but this steering pattern is especially chaotic. That's
Yeah.
going to be present over Irma.
And what about the western coast of Florida right now?
So we're talking like Cuba and Hispaniola, I'm guessing.
I'm sorry? I said what about the western coast of Florida?
Oh, the western coast of Florida. I thought you said Western Caribbean. Your mic cut out. It's still possible to receive hurricane impacts from this storm, no doubt about it. If it goes into Western Florida, it's probably already have made landfall in Cuba. So we'll have to see how the storm does after a landfall in Cuba. It might have its core completely degenerated like Ike, and it won't intensify at all. It might still have a core intact and end up like Charlie. We really don't know at this point. The sea, I will say that the sea surface temperatures are ripe for rapid intensification if the storm decides to do so. I don't think that's what it's going to do, but the storm's obviously caught us a bit off guard before, and it's probably likely to do it again. So basically what we just need to do, if you're in Florida, just closely monitor the system. You have time. At the very, very least, you have 4 days before this storm starts to bear down on you. So
And that
you
time
have
will
time
go.
to prepare. You have time to get your materials.
That time will go. Cesar, what are your thoughts right now on this latest development with the track philosophy here?
It is interesting about what we'll gonna see in the next days, because there's a lot of uncertainty, and possibly we may see a landfall that has been not expected in the last few hours. I mean that Irma could actually be pulled to the north without making landfall in Florida, as has been expected in all these days. So the big concern is if how much time has the people to get prepared in the case that Irma goes straight to the Carolinas instead of Florida, because so far the models are predicting that they will go to Florida or the Carolinas, but they are not issuing any type of warnings or watches to the Carolinas to get prepared in case that the storm is going to move to the north.
The models haven't a clue at the moment, I think.
Yeah, well, it's pretty soon yet, I must say, but if they're predicting that, it is a point to be considered. And of course, the models just shows us a possibility, so we cannot take all the models like, oh, this model is predicting that, so it will gonna happen. No, it's just like a guidance, and this is why we should monitor very close the system, because it only depends about how fast Irma moves and how soon or how many days we have to wait until Irma do that turn to the north. That is practically expected.
Yeah. And there are warnings that are now extended as far as the southeastern Bahamas right now. And, Devon, what are the recon planes finding?
Nothing new.
Right. So, you're saying what wins?
Well, like I said, nothing new from what we had when we last discussed it. Still, the best that they found seems to be in the 165 to 175 mile an hour range.
So again, nothing to back the 185 mile an hour designation.
But also still nothing to laugh at either. This
Yep.
is still an extremely powerful system.
Do you think it's reached its peak, or some people may be suggesting that some further intensification may still be on the way in the future, maybe not today or tomorrow, but
You know, every single time I say that a storm is peak, it strengthens another 16 categories. So I'm just going to shut my mouth.
okay, fair enough.
Well, in my personal opinion, I don't think it will get 185 or stronger again. I think Irma has peaked, and well, of course, the forecast says it will weaken slightly as it travels to the northwest, west-northwest. But doesn't matter really how strong will be the winds, because Irma will still be a monstrous hurricane, and it will cause a lot of damages. And this is the truth of the matter, actually, because Irma practically will grow in size, I think, and this is a big concern because more area of rain will follow. Well, more areas will have storm conditions of Irma, so pretty potential flooding can be seen in the Hispaniola and Cuba as well, even if Irma doesn't make a direct landfall. All the clouds of the storm will be practically over those islands, and this is the
Yeah.
well, that.
And presently we're looking at the visible imagery, a real close-up of the storm on visible imagery again, and there it is, just like yesterday, mesmerizing. And it's just like, I don't know, you can watch it for so long, not just the eye, but the eye wall, and just how it bubbles up as if you're on some sort of on the edge of the ocean, perhaps, with the waves washing up or something. But this is obviously rather severe as it continues to approach the British Virgin Islands, which are on the right-hand side there, and the on the left-hand side of the storm, and the US Virgin Islands to its left, just a little bit further off the screen.
Practically, the British Virgin Islands will be over the eye.
Yes, and that's going to happen in just a few hours. It's only at the top of the hour, it was only 38 miles away from some of the British Virgin Islands. So if it's moving at 15 miles an hour, it's 2 hours away. Is it still moving at 15 miles an hour? Or is it faster now?
It is moving 1 mile faster, 16.
Oh yes. Well, yeah,
miles
2
per
hours.
hour.
2 hours till it gets there. So if you're on those islands now, I'd be surprised if you're watching us, to be fair, because the conditions there will be extremely bad right now, and Category 5 conditions will be occurring very soon, if not already.
Yeah, practically the body of the storm is over those islands, and then the eye wall, that is the worst part of the storm, will rush the island. Then the very peaceful temporary calm of that small eye, oh, well, not that small, but practically the whole island, it will be covered by the eye. That is incredible, and it reminds me somehow to Typhoon Meranti or Hurricane Wilma as well, that they practically traveled over an island and covered it completely with its eye. That is an incredible situation for those people are living there, and this is dangerous as well, in my opinion, because some people may think that they can go out to their homes while the eye is over them.
Well, you know, that happened most notably in 1926 during the Miami hurricane. That, I mean, people didn't know so much about storms back then, but we have to keep the education up, because back then people didn't know in the eye that it was the middle rather than the end of the storm, and around 200 people were killed just by that.
That is incredible. The eye is just like a tricky part, is like the most trickiest part of the storm.
Yeah.
There's no clouds, there's practically nothing. And the other part of the storm comes, and of course the disaster resumes again.
I'm going to try and get the radar that Devon was showing up from Puerto Rico shortly, which will show you everything that's going on in terms of the radar, and obviously that's very important to show you what is being shown on there. We've also got the satellite, of course, but whilst I get that in just a moment. So let me see if I can get this up now. Here is a view on the Puerto Rico National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service website, and you can see the eye beginning to appear on the close range radar. And if we go, oh, that's the national. I'll try and get a long range shortly.
This is just scary.
Yeah. Just trying to get the long range radar, and here it comes. There's the long range radar from Puerto Rico right now, and you can see how close it is drawing to the islands. I think short range is actually better to look at in this instance, so that we can take a look at the positions of those islands and how close the storm is getting to them now. So the British Virgin Islands is the ones that are sort of under the yellow bands at the moment, and just lighting up red at the end there, which I think is that a tornado warning? For some of the US Virgin Islands as well, it would appear. But yeah, the center of the storm drawing very close indeed on that graphic. Just turn the warnings off, it's a bit of a distraction. And just to bring that radar off briefly, I want to show you that map there. So you can see the US Virgin Islands are in the outline. The British Virgin Islands aren't in the outline, so you won't see it when the radar loop pops back up again. But I just want to point those out because the storm is extremely close to those islands now. And once we put them back on, you can see that the easternmost of the British Virgin Islands is now pretty much under the inner eye wall, Cesar.
Yeah, it is. This incredibly scary, and And of course, I'm pretty worried about those people are living there because practically in the satellite era, we have never seen a hurricane of that intensity impacting like that those islands that are pretty small and that can get completely rushed by the system. I mean, all the water, all the waves, and practically will make a total, practical, a potential total destruction in the islands. And the people as well that are living on those islands, they have nothing to stay well protected with a storm of that grade, a storm that we have never seen in decades. So,
well, of course, I mean, this is one of the strongest storms that we've seen hitting the Caribbean islands. You would have to go back to real historical times from before the HERDAT, which is the automated, or not automated, but the data collecting that the National Hurricane Center did, the database from 1861 to present. It was probably before then that we had a storm as strong as this. There was quite a few back in the first half of the 19th century, and in the second half of the 18th century particularly. We probably had a few storms like this occurring, but it's been a very long time since we've seen something like this. I certainly don't think we could say that we've seen a Category 5 landfall on one of the smaller Lesser Antilles in the satellite era. The Greater Antilles we sort of have. David supposedly made landfall as a Category 5 in the Dominican Republic. Didn't Puerto Rico get a Category 5 landfall back in the 20s or the 30s as well? Something like that.
I don't remember actually. This is interesting question.
I'm sure Puerto Rico had a Category 5 landfall at some point. And then you've got the Bahamas. And, I mean, the northern Bahamas have had Category 5 landfalls pretty recently in comparison, but the southern ones, I'm not so sure. I can't remember right now. I don't expect you to know either, Cesar.
Yes, but actually, maybe you're right. It's the 1928 Okeechobee hurricane.
Right.
It was a Category 5 hurricane and made landfall as a Category 5 in Puerto Rico. That's right. Oh my God!
Now this
89 years ago.
Yeah, this won't be making landfall as a Category 5 in Puerto Rico, but it's going to get pretty close to the island as a significant. Still, it will still be a Category 5 by then, I should think, unless something catastrophic for the storm happens. But at the moment, all we're seeing is catastrophe for the islands involved, and the British Virgin Islands are next. The storm is within 40 miles of those islands. It's already today moved over Barbuda, which was its first stop. The eye made landfall on Barbuda. The edge of the eye crossed over St. Bart's. The eye made landfall on St. Martin and possibly on Anguilla, but I'm not sure. But certainly got the edge of the eye. And now one of the British Virgin Islands may well get a landfall. The US Virgin Islands probably won't, although they will still probably get major hurricane force winds. Puerto Rico will probably get major hurricane force winds on the northern coast, especially in the northeast. Further away, it won't be quite as bad, but I should think hurricane force winds will occur over most of that island. And the Dominican Republic could get a hurricane as well. And Devon is pretty convinced that the models to 3 days out are correct, Cesar. The NHC forecast cone is pretty much nailed down to 3 days out. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts in that is that just people cannot cannot get distracted and by the other storms. First of all, that is in the Atlantic, they are just distractors. I mean, Irma is the concern right now, and anything could happen. Irma could move more farther to the south or to the north or to the west. I mean, in practically all directions. And of course, there's a landfall in the Turks and Caicos Islands and Bahamas is imminent. But in Cuba and Florida, the people must have to pay a lot of attention with that, because so far the NHC predicts that Irma's eye will practically will be pretty close to Cuba and then move over Florida, or just passing very, very close to the coast, as like Matthew did in the last year. And well, the destruction will happen anyways. So people just must take all the precautions right now. They don't have to wait any more time.
Here's the latest model spread right now, says and I'm sure you've looked at that as well. And I have to say, one or two outliers there. Just for some of the thin grey lines. I'm not sure what they are, whether they're affiliated to any of the models or not, or whether they're just outliers or something not to look at all. But one or two are predicting a curve, whatever, like right out to sea.
A U-turn?
Right out to sea and towards the south after going up the coast of Florida, like it was almost forecasted Matthew to do at one point. That's crazy.
Exactly. That it was the same thing that I was about to comment. Actually,
you were okay.
But, yes, actually, you read my mind. but
most of the models think otherwise.
Yeah, this is actually interesting. I'm not sure, to be honest, that this will happen, because the stream will practically pull the system to the north, and then it will turn extratropical and dissipate over land. Well, in my opinion.
But one thing I've got to say right now, and this is quite a maybe a sobering point for us and for everyone, I don't know, but if this storm doesn't impact Florida as a significant hurricane, I should think, with the massive stir and craziness that's been going on with the media and with the authorities declaring a state of emergency 6 days before the storm was forecast to strike Florida, if it was to miss now, which is what a lot of the models are saying, that it will technically miss but not make landfall, but will still cause some strong winds, a bit like Matthew, that the public would be outraged if that was to occur.
Well, maybe they will be mad in case that Irma doesn't make landfall in Florida, but I must say that they have to think and to keep in mind that the hurricane has really big dimensions. And catastrophic
big
damages.
Uncertainties as well. By the way, it could still go west of Florida. You never know.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of uncertainty yet. Of course, it will get more clear when the storm approaches the state. But the models that you're showing right now, are pretty odd or interesting at the same time, because practically they predict a sudden move to the north, not even a gradual movement. So that means that in some point
it's going to mean a slowdown as well. At least for a little while.
That was about to say as well, actually. The Irma will slow down, possibly get stationary for a bit, before moving suddenly to the north. Where and when? Who knows? But it will.
I want to
That
take a question of interest, actually, because it is an interesting question. Does the small hurricane icon used on the National Hurricane Center centerline underestimate the width of the hurricane wind field? Absolutely. It does not show at all what the hurricane wind field is forecasted to be. However, hold that thought, because I may well have something else, because the Joint Typhoon Warning Center always issues forecasts as well, and I wonder whether they've got one for this and whether they're showing wind field forecasts as well. I can't remember where exactly to find those. I'll just take a look for it and see if I can find it, because they do it in the West Pacific, but I'm not sure if they do it in the Atlantic, so I don't know about that. I'll have to get back to you on that. Cesar?
well, answering the question that picking pairs.
Oh, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I found it. So,
yeah.
here's another thing, and perhaps one or two of our other members are keen on showing the JTWC maps. It's another version, so that's what it looks like in another version from the US Navy. And on this you can see the wind field. The red wind field, now let's see here. You've got 3 circles of wind radius there on the forecast. You've got the red one, which is the innermost one, and that's the strongest winds. I can't remember how strong the winds are there. Maybe category 2 force or category 3 force, maybe. And then you've got the sort of purple area there on the second ring, which I think might be hurricane force, and the pink one, which is tropical storm force. Or maybe I've got that wrong, but you can get the idea anyway. And the wind field looks like it's going to expand quite a bit as it moves through or near the Dominican Republic and through the Turks and Caicos Islands, and then as it nears Cuba. This is the older forecast before the National Hurricane Center did their update, but you can see what they're predicting there, and they have a much wider cone as well, because don't forget the National Hurricane Center's cone isn't conclusive. It does not fill the whole 100% chance of it happening. And whilst we're here, I might want to read out some wind probabilities for other locations. Excuse me, to read out some hurricane force wind probabilities ahead of the storm. San Juan, Puerto Rico, 50% chance of hurricane conditions. Puerto Plata, 22%. Guantanamo Bay, 4. Havana, 5. Grand Turk, 71. San Salvador, 12. Great Exuma, 39. New Providence, 22. Grand Bahama, 28. Places in Florida: St. Mark's, 2% chance of hurricane conditions. Tallahassee, 2%. Cedar Keys, 7. Tampa, 11. Venice, 13. Fort Myers, 18. Naples, 21. Key West, 17. That's down from yesterday. Marathon, 29. Homestead, 38. Miami, 38% chance of hurricane conditions. Fort Lauderdale, 37. West Palm Beach, 36. Fort Pierce, 30. Cocoa Beach, 25. Orlando, 18. Daytona Beach, 18. Gainesville, 7. Jacksonville, 9. Waycross, Georgia, 4%. Savannah, 6%. Augusta, 2. Charleston, South Carolina, 5%. Myrtle Beach, 2. Columbia, 1. Wilmington, North Carolina, 2%. Surf City, 1%. Those are all chances of hurricane conditions on all of those locations. So
That is interesting, I must say.
yeah, which bit?
Well, interesting in the fact that they are not predicting the like a precise percentage of hurricane and tropical storm conditions. I think of course, the values will rise as the system is approaching. But actually, some well, just the people have to know that even if Irma stays out of Florida, the pretty bad conditions will be there. Actually, there's no escape. A storm of those dimensions with such an intensity should not be taken as a joke. And we have some Matthew last year. It caused a lot of destruction, even that it does practically when was out of the state. It didn't make a direct landfall, but it caused a lot of destruction along the coast of Florida. And Irma will do the same if moves out to the north before making landfall in that state. But of course, the chance of direct landfall is possible. So
I just want to put this radar on here again, and just to take it off briefly so that you can see all of the islands there, the British Virgin Islands, which aren't marked out by the outline. The US Virgin Islands are marked out with the outline, that's where St. Thomas is. But there's the British Virgin Islands to the east there as well. And that's where the storm is right now in relation to those islands, right into the eye wall for some.
yeah.
Question, do you think the storm will get to 190 miles per hour? Well, it won't do it today.
Irma won't, or at least in my point of view. I think it has peaked and it won't intensify again as 185 miles per hour hurricane.
If you have a complete worst case scenario near the coast of Florida, it could get to 190 plus given the sea surface temperatures, but I have to stress that that would be unlikely, and anything like that has only ever happened once before. The Labor Day hurricane.
Yeah. And my reason of why Irma won't.
And actually, I just want
intensify.
to put something into your mind too before you say that, Cesar.
Yes.
It's only going to grow larger, so rapid intensification is going to get more difficult for it as well.
Exactly. That is another point to take in consideration, because larger systems, of course, they take more time to absorb all the energy in the ocean. So, of course, the rapid intensification is more difficult, or intensification itself is lower. Also, Irma will be under land interaction with the all Puerto Rico, La Española, and Cuba. That will prevent the system to intensify as well. And well, Irma is a pretty intense storm, and pretty intense storms usually, or well, not usually, practically, they had Nile replacement cycle. So practically there are a lot of facts that could weaken Irma, and a lot of facts as well that will not intensify again as 185 or even more, practically tying or even surpassing Allen. So for me, Irma has peaked.
Remarkable images, and now I can say that the storm must only be something like 20 miles away from some of the British Virgin Islands. There's a view on the infrared right now.
Yeah, practically there's an hour, some minutes away to see a direct landfall on those British Virgin Islands. Look at that. The eye wall is almost there. The worst part of the storm is practically getting close.
It could even be
island,
worse for the US Virgin Islands though, because they're going to get 100% eye wall.
Exactly. Even that the eye will pass directly over the British Virgin Islands, the worst part will will be felt. Sorry, to the U.S. Virgin Islands, because the eye wall is the worst part of the storm where the winds are strong, are stronger and practically non-stoppable. The wind gust is the concerning as well. More than 220 miles per hour wind gust is an incredible, and it's an incredible speed and a really total destruction we may possibly see. Look at that, the image is
the water vapor imagery here as well.
It is pretty beautiful and at the same time scary, completely scary. Pretty intense storm, pretty organized.
This point says, oh, what do you want to do?
All I want to do,
because I think we ain't got much else to say here, so we're probably going to finish up and produce some more updates throughout today.
Yeah, the right now at this rate we can only wait till new information comes out from the National Hurricane Center. So
what we say to people watching in the United States right now is, you know, we're still looking, and it's going to be an uncomfortable waiting period here, because it's not going to become certain with the best computer models, which still can't predict everything right all of the time, or even half the time. Let's get it right.
Exactly.
You're going to be watching this for the next 3 and 4 days, seeing whether it draws near or not.
Well, all the people living in the U.S. state of Florida, they should monitor really close that system, because, well, I will repeat that, but it's necessary. It's just about time, about when will Irma going to turn to the north, where, and of course it depends as well the movement of Irma, because that high pressure it will still pulling the system until it catches that jet stream that will practically move Irma to the north. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and if misses Florida, there's, in my point of view, there's no reason to get mad, because I mean, this is for security.
People should be happy if that occurs.
Well, actually, yes, happy in some
but
point.
My point is just that, you know, the public have been told by media organizations that you know, that this is going to be potentially the worst storm to ever hit Florida and all this, and that it's the strongest storm in the world and all this nonsense. It's not actually the strongest storm in the world, or even in the Atlantic. No, it's in the top 5. It is in the top 5, but it's not. There's just so much spin that's been put on this system, and people are going completely crazy out of their mind. Not to say that it won't hit, because it still might, and it still might hit as a massive storm on Florida, but you know, if it doesn't, people will really feel betrayed by those media organizations and even the authorities who declared a state of emergency in Florida 5-6 days before the storm was predicted to get there.
Actually, there is a really good reason to, well, why the people could get mad, because maybe those people are just, I mean, of course intentions are to save the people, but take in mind that The system can go anywhere.
But it is what it is, and you can't, you know, you can't be sorry for you can't say that this wasn't predicted and coming if it does happen.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of time to prepare for everyone.
And that's why people should get informed really well, because as you said before, Nathan, a lot of media has said that Irma, it is the strongest hurricane in the whole world. For God's sakes, no, it is not.
Nonsense.
And it wasn't, and it won't. Patricia, in terms of wind speeds, it is.
Tied.
And it is the truth of the matter. Irma, it is the second strongest hurricane in the whole Atlantic. The strongest one was Allen back in 1980.
That's if you use official numbers, but you look at the satellite imagery of Allen, it looked awful.
Yes, actually, Allen doesn't look like a 190 mile per hour hurricane.
Well, Force 13's analysis actually put it down to 175.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And by our numbers, Irma is the third strongest storm in wind speed after Gilbert and Wilma.
Pretty agree with that. Gilbert and Irma were pretty massive storms in size and as well of wind speeds. They had a lot of power, and of course they caused a lot of devastation. And particularly, well, I must say that Irma, it is one of the strongest storms to make landfall in the world. That is true, but not the strongest storm in the world. And they haven't specified that it was a landfall, actually.
But if you want to see some very strong worldwide storms that have been underestimated, take a look at some of the typhoons. Typhoon Nida of 2009, Typhoon Mike in 1990.
Nancy in 61, I think.
Nancy, you say?
Yes, I don't know.
Typhoon Karen, which leveled Guam in 1962 when it hit as a Category 5. Another one of the strongest storms to ever make landfall as well. And then you look at Haiyan, which Irma has nothing on Haiyan. Haiyan was much larger, much stronger, but it was a different basin, a much bigger ocean, a much warmer ocean. The Atlantic is smaller, but it can still produce these huge monsters that we see every so often, and it's been such a long time since the last time this occurred. I guess you can't take it too seriously, but I hope people are, one, prepared, and two, that everything's been done properly and that the forecasts are as good as possible.
Exactly. So, well, practically we don't have anything more else to say. I only going to say that in the future I'm going to keep the updates in Spanish and English.
Cesar's been doing a great job for us, doing updates in Spanish and English.
Sorry for my English pronunciation. But
I'm just waiting to get some new imagery up to show everyone the wider scene, but it looks like even that's not working for us at this moment in time. So at this point we'll be leaving with the latest that Hurricane Irma is pretty much on top of the Virgin Islands, and they're going to be completely trashed probably in the next few hours. Just if you missed it, that's what it looks like right now. The British Virgin Islands are about to enter the eye in about the next 30 minutes to an hour, and the US Virgin Islands will see the eye wall for the next few hours as Irma proceeds towards the west-northwest at around 16 miles per hour. More updates throughout the day. We'll try and coincide them with the National Hurricane Center's updates, and we'll probably be live again later tonight with the latest on Irma. We're also expecting to issue the Harvey report today, which will also be interesting for those who were caught up in that storm last week. and we will have our conclusions on that too. You've been watching Force 13 Live. Stay up to date on our social pages. Search Force 13 on Facebook and Twitter, all in text. You can also find us on Skype, add Fool13, FOOL13, and add extension 9094 on Discord, where we have chat rooms that you can also participate in. We always need a friend around this time, don't we, Cesar?
Yeah, that's right. And of course, we love to see more people involved with us to, of course, collaborate with us and keeping bringing more content as well to this channel.
This project is community run. It doesn't make any sorts of profits, and if it does, through YouTube or whatnot, they get invested back into our productions to make our productions better, faster, more streamlined, so that the information, the critical information, always gets out. And we do as much as possible for the Storm community, and we hope we're doing a good service with Irma, even though it isn't as full as I would have liked it to have been personally, because myself personally, I haven't been too well in recent days. But here we are with the latest on Irma and regular updates to come. Stay tuned and stay safe.